Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the RationalInvestor.com's Daily Brief. Yeah, it looks like we had about 40, 50 people who watched that Battle Stations episode this morning. And I guess since they're Monday to Friday, they kind of are like almost like a soap opera episode. What controversial thing did Brian say today? I do know we were joking before we got the recording going that we had singing going on this morning, and I think we had Swedish death metal band Jurst was singing "Head and Shoulders, Knees and Toes." Anyway, lots of fun. And if anything, it's good to have sort of lighthearted. Sometimes I talk so much though that I end up distracting the boys, and they're like, "Hey, we got to do a trade here. Shut the hell up." But yeah, we're having some good conversations in the day trader room this morning, and I did notice out of the corner of my eye there were a few people sort of maybe even our site lurkers just starting 30-day trials, new level 1 students and stuff. In the lounge, people were posting that they were having a lot of fun watching us blibber blabbering away. So it was kind of a cool addition to the TRI experience here of late. And I got to say, I'm immensely proud of the boys and girls in the day trader room, and the hard work that they're putting in on a daily basis. Because really, to be a good day trader, then your number one job is you just have to show up. It's just that simple. You just have to show up, and then try and sort of figure out 3 reasons that appeal to you, and then just get in there and just probably like the first. I would even say like first 3 or 4 months. I think Karan's program, Karan and Daniele, their program's probably going to be like a good 6 months or so. But you're just your job in there is just to sit and watch and paper trade and just record and journal and track, and just you're like a data collector. You just got to collect the data, and you got to let your brain sort of absorb it all. Actually, we had Andrea, sort of relatively new to the group of late, and I think that was sort of her sentiment. When she first jumped into the room, she's kind of like, wow, this stuff's moving at light speed. But even I heard her even recently say that she's feeling as though things are kind of slowing down a little bit. So that's good. And that's usually what ends up happening and then you get to the point where, and this is sort of like I've told you guys in the past, a gentleman I used to like work with, Ray Burchett. He would say that you have to get to the point where you're intuitive in the market, and you've already done all the what does a setup that I like look like. And as soon as even as it's developing, and that's actually one really huge bonus of what Grim is doing here recently, is he has a setup that actually has different criteria, and he gets sort of permission to move on to sort of step 2 of his setup, which gets him even more focused as he's marching away and doing his setup. And I'm hearing that some of the people in the day trader room that are relatively new and just sort of getting the feel for what sort of works for them individually, they're really liking this mechanical approach that Grim has. Be interesting. I don't know whether Grim has done the personality test. We should try and figure out what personality Grim is, and which school he falls into. Yeah. So Megan here, just in the lounge, said he's so disciplined, and I guess she likes that. Maybe she doesn't like it. I don't know. But definitely right. Discipline in this game. You just got to sort of figure out what works for you, and you just got to do the same goddamn thing every single day, day in, day out. You're never going to be right 100% of the time. I've told all of you that repeatedly. It's a cornerstone of our education program. Don't put yourself in a position where you expect to be right 100% of the time. That's stupid. Stupid, 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 stupid. What you have to be is you have to be humble enough to know that you're just another human on this planet. You're just like anybody else in the market. I mean, yeah, okay, maybe you're intelligent. That's cool. But you don't know what the future is. Nobody does. I mean, I used to know, but I broke my crystal ball last week and I haven't been able to find a person who can fix it since. It's driving me crazy. If anything, make jokes about it, right? God, so don't you get people find that people take this shit way too seriously? You know, if you're humble and you just go, look at, got this set up. When I'm right, it pays me a couple bucks. When I'm wrong, I lose a buck. Yeah, I'm right, 50, 60, 70% of the time if I'm lucky. It's a vocation and you can make some pretty damn good money and live pretty good life. Just living that really simple, I don't know what the fuck's going to happen, but I'm a statistician. That's what I do. Anyway, I'm seeing that more and more day in, day out in that day trader room, and it's beautiful. It's absolutely textbook. If anything, it's very hard to see what like Warren Buffett's life is like, or his buddy Charlie Munger or whatever, or William O'Neill, right? The guy who taught us can slim, and the various other, Peter Lynch, right? Famous mutual fund manager. Very hard for us to see what their lives are like because, how do you track this stuff over like weeks, months, years? It's very hard to get into the mental mindset of a really good investor. It's interesting that Megan mentioned discipline. The difference between the Buffetts and the Peter Lynches and the Mungers and the Can Slim William O'Neills of the world and what we're doing in the day trading room is just time frame. It's exactly the same thing. It's just how do you run a video room with investors over 6 months, a year, 3 to 5 year time horizon? How do you do it? You can't. But the point is that it's actually it's exactly the same conversation that you see in that video. It's identical. It's just over a bigger, larger time frame, higher levels, weekly price charts as opposed to daily price charts, monthly price charts as opposed to like 10-minute charts. But the logic is exactly the same. It's identical. I can't drive that home enough. So, in a weird sort of way, the day trader room is everything that you're trying to learn here at TRI. It's just under the microscope of, oh, Jesus, 3-minute charts, 8-tick range charts, the day trader. Seriously, folks, there's no difference. It's just perspective. That's all. Okay, so rant. One thing I did absolutely want to do here today, it is Wednesday, and I promised on coming out of the broiler chicken show on Sunday, I didn't have enough time to address all of the questions that students had posted. And then Monday, I just sort of blabbed on endlessly like I was just about to do there a moment ago and didn't even get around to this. And then yesterday, of course, we had Daniele and Karen, and we chomped through the time there very, very quickly. So I absolutely, priority number one is this has to get addressed. I want to make sure that you level oneers do not feel as though this guy, Brian Beamish, is just bullshitting you and he says one thing and then does another. So this has been bugging me for the past day or two here. My apologies to level oneers who are asking these questions and wondering why I was letting you down. My apologies. This is priority number one here today. As well, being Wednesday, I, like to, and actually this was really cool because I even heard the feedback about this is perfect. But Wednesdays of late, we have our TRI SOF meeting on Tuesday evenings, but Wednesday of late, Kevin, I've asked him to come on and just, talk through what we've looked at through the meeting last night, see if anything of note jumped out at him. And, just tell the community what he sees in the markets, because I think he's a very, very smart young man, although I think he's probably my age. So it's not exactly a young man, but I get the leisure of calling you all young men and young ladies, whether you like it or not. So on Wednesdays, I like to have Kevin come on and chat with you a little bit about what we did in TRISOF. And as I said, we also have that meeting last night, and it was so cool to hear that other members of the community can really hear Kevin coming out of his shell, doing these videos. I don't even think Kevin himself realizes it, but it's cool to see him like literally blossoming as a public speaker. So Kevin, are you there, buddy?
Old man, take a look at my life. I'm a
Oh,
lot
there he
like
is.
you.
There you go. I mean, a year or two ago, there was no way we could get Kevin to come on and just actually sing to you right out of the gate like that. That's great. Do you like Neil Young? I didn't know you liked
Oh
Neil Young.
man. Well, I mean, I do like that record Harvest. Oh my god, that's a classic.
All right.
Or I don't know
Well,
if
there
that
you go.
song's on Harvest or not, but Harvest is, I really like that record.
Yeah, yeah. God, man. When I was growing up, man, I heard Neil Young out the bum. And then it was so funny in the 1980s. He totally went like disco, or not disco, but remember there was like a neon sort of aerobic look. Do you remember that? And he went and Geffen, right? Geffen did a deal with him, and he did a whole bunch of these just crappy albums, and Geffen sued him. Do you remember that?
No.
Anyway, years gone by. Anyway, good song and great singing, and if the Beamish can somehow contain himself, we'll get you a nice Kevin report here today as well. So I'll try and be as quick as possible, but this has been really nagging me. I hate doing this I hate people who say they're going to do something and then don't do it. It drives me crazy, and literally this was bugging me all last night. So I want to attack these questions first, and really, if you're like Brian, I want you to talk markets and shit like that. I got to finish this first, so just 2 times speed until I get done this, and then once I'm done sort of that follow up, then we'll pass it off to Kevin. Hopefully, let's say I can get all this done in the next half hour or so, and then we can get back to sort of what's going on and should we be buying or selling anything here today. So I hope that agrees with everybody. My apologies, I'm doing this, but like I said, this has been really bugging me, and I just want to get it done. So here we go. I think we left off here basically. We talked a little bit about the bond market and the way the bond market sort of works. And when I read this back later on, just understand that there are constantly bonds of all durations constantly. I mean, just think about like your house mortgage as a bond. Your house mortgage basically is a bond. And so, the guy who went and got a 20-year mortgage last year, well, he's paid off 1 year of it. Now he has a 19-year mortgage. Well, 2 years from now, that mortgage that he's still paying off, then it's going to be a 17-year mortgage. So it's not really like there is like a 10-year bond market. It's the whole market is constantly maturing, constantly. I mean, they're 1 years all the way out to like 30-year paper. Constantly, this stuff is rolling over, constantly. Then we talked a little bit about how bond desks work. Remember, we talked about how if you wanted to invest in the bond market, you would call up your bond desk at your brokerage house. They would have access to an inventory of bonds, whether it be a third-party inventory, a bank or something, or a clearing desk. And they would have price quotes and associated interest rates with those price quotes. And literally, as a shopper of the market, you're just going to simply go through the list and say, I like that one, or I like that one. or I want that specific yield, so I'll buy that bond that happens to be yielding 5% or whatever yield it is that you want. The bond desk doesn't get paid in commissions. The bond desk gets paid in the spread. So if, let's say, your bond on the sheet that they give you says 5% yield, it's actually probably like, and I'll convert this into prices. Remember we did our little in the broiler chickens, we did the little comparison of a bond at 5%, a bond at 10%. The price of the bond has to be half whatever it was at 5%. And then the other way, when the yield was 2.5%, then the price of the bond had to be twice as much. So what happens, of course, is, well, not of course, but bonds, and I want to do as a diagram because let's see, I just want to grab something I can just use here. Let's go like so, and then like so. All right, so bond, $100 par value. It's got its coupons attached. And we said that each of these coupons was for $5, and you could cash one in a year, which means that it's a 5% coupon. Little dollar figure there, which means that it's 5%, right? $5 on 100. If prevailing rates in the marketplace go up to 10%, then that means that this bond, for that $5 coupon to be yielding 10%, the price of the bond in the marketplace must be $50, which would mean a huge collapse in the price. So the point here is that if the coupon is $5 and prevailing interest rates are 5%, and the face value of the bond is $100, that's what it is in the marketplace. The brokerage house, just so you understand how the payment works, this bond will actually, for you to get $5 and $5 coupon and get that 5% yield, right, at 100, the bond actually has to be trading in the marketplace at like 101. Now that'll mean at 101, and this is a big difference, but at 101, the yield's not going to be 5% anymore, is it? It's going to be slightly lower than that, right? It might be like 4.995 or something percent, right? Terrible writing. But that would actually have to be the price and the yield of the bond in the open marketplace. The bond desk will actually quote you 5% at 100. So this difference is their fee, if you will. So in essence, you're going to actually go and buy the bond at 101 in the open marketplace, but you'll get filled at 100, and they're going to keep that dollar as a fee. That's what they call spread basis. It's not really that important. It doesn't really make a difference. You'll never see this because, like I said, your bond desk is going to send you a sheet that's going to have ABC bond, and let's say you are shopping for a 10-year bond, right? So on the sheet that's sent to you, we used to fax this out. What the hell's a fax? But like in your email, it'll say 10-year ABC bond, current price is $100, and it is yielding 5%. So you want, even though in reality this is actually the market rate for the bond, this is what the bond desk is going to tell you. You say, okay, fine, I want this bond, this 10-year bond at par. It'll mature at par. I got 5% yield in my portfolio. Do the deal, right? So then they'll go into the marketplace, buy it at 101, sell it to you at 100. And there's their difference. That's their fee. So that's basically how the bond market works. Hope that helps sort of dovetail a little bit with that. Okay, number 15. What is money multiplier effect and how does it work? It was mentioned in week 2 strategic planning. All right, so money multiplier effect is this idea that, and it's interesting because as time goes by, what I hear more and more often is it's a question of hard money versus soft money, whether you actually believe in this sort of modern monetary theory kind of idea. So the people that George Bush Sr. used to call this voodoo economics, where people like, and they called them like, I guess, oh God, I can't remember what the term is. I want to say neoliberalism, but I don't think that's right. It's neo something or other. They were like the Reaganomics, it's interesting twist on right-wing sort of conservatism. Conservatism classically has been sort of laissez-faire, keep the banks out of the system, don't take an active role in the economy. There's neoliberalism, neoconservatism. I can't remember. There's a specific term for it. It was really espoused by guys like James Baker. Oh God, what the hell's that guy's name? Oh, I can see his face. Anyway, a whole bunch of Reaganomics guys that all sort of came in following the flush out, following Nixon. You know, when Nixon resigned, the whole right wing of the sort of U.S. political structure was brought into question. And there was a sort of, and the question ultimately here is this a plot by the banksters to take control of the economy, or is this actually sound fiscal policy? I don't know. As I said, George Bush Sr. called it voodoo economics. Others called it like Reagan economics, and that's sort of like that. Think trickle down economics. Let the rich get very, very, very rich, and then they're sort of the crumbs that fall off of the table will feed the poor and make them feel better. That's basically what trickle down economics is. But like this neo liberal, and it's sort of like, it's weird. It's sort of like government has a different role. Because, coming out of keep in mind, like prior to the Second World War, government was actually very, very detached from society, right? It would be like, 100 years ago, they used to have what they called the hell do you call them? Well, I guess you call them classes, but there was basically, estates, right? They called them estates. So the first estate was the aristocracy, and that was government, right? The people who ran the show. Second estate was the clergy, and they were kind of exempt from the powers of government, all through the Middle Ages and the Dark Ages, of course. clergy and religion, they sort of were at odds with each other. Henry VIII and the Roman Catholic Church, and Luther and all that shit, right? And then there's the third estate, and that's the bourgeoisie, and that's basically all of you and I, and all the peasants. They're all thrown in there as well. And then, they used to sort of, and it's so sad because the media has completely collapsed. But when I was growing up, they used to call the media the fourth estate, where they were supposed to sort of keep an eye on everybody and report about what everybody's doing. The only problem there is that they don't have any money, and there's no sort of incentive to report the truth. You don't get paid to report the truth. And if anything, the capitalists figured out that actually you do get paid to fuck around with the truth. And it's worth actually spending money on media outlets to actually propagate non-truth. So the fourth estate sort of collapsed. And frankly speaking, I don't even think the fourth estate even exists. But, guys like Walter Cronkite. When I was growing up, Walter Cronkite was like, he was serious. Like, he was a man to be respected in our society. Now, do you even know the name of the guy who reads the nightly news? I don't even know any of the people that do that anymore. Anyway, point of the matter here is, through the Reagan years, there was this idea that and I think it goes back to Keynesian economics, and a couple of the other guys, I can never remember all their names. But the long and short of it here is, if you live in a consumer-based economy, then that means that the economy must, and you hear Janet Yellen going, invest, spend your money, for God's sakes, spend your money. So these economies to function, they require people have to spend money. That's what has to happen. And the whole idea of money multiplier effect is this idea that if you go and spend $1 in the economy and buy, let's say, like, I don't know, let's say a candy bar. See how long it takes for Brian to write out candy bar. There we go, did it. Phew. And actually, I better keep moving forward here. What goes into actually making the candy bar? Well, there's actually a whole bunch of ingredients. There's things like the chocolate. So the people who make the candy bars, they must have gone and bought a whack. Maybe they had to buy let's say $10 worth of chocolate to go into making the candy bar. How about peanuts, right? And all this kind of stuff. Maybe they had to buy $10 worth of peanuts for their wonderful candy bars. And then, of course, they have the employees, the worker who actually runs the machine that puts all the chocolate and peanuts and maybe they have to sign a union contract or whatever with a worker. So the point is that to do this business, there's got to be a bunch of investment that has to go into making the candy bar. And in a weird sort of way, none of this is justifiable without this purchase. So in a weird sort of way, as long as this purchase is made, then the whole machine can just keep going and going and going and going and going. And the weird thing is this purchase here actually justifies in the candy bar manufacturer's eyes going and spending all of this money to try and secure the next purchase and the next purchase and the next purchase. So what ends up happening is if the economy runs smoothly, it just keeps going, keeps going, keeps going, keeps going, keeps going, keeps going. And every time a candy bar is purchased, then Mr. Candy Bar manufacturer goes, fucking A, it worked. And let's do our plans for the future and go and buy a whole bunch more inventory and secure workers and factories and shit. go make a bunch of candy bars so that they get bought by the economy. I mean, this is thank you, neoclassical. Yeah. So that's how that sort of money multiplier kind of concept works. And the basic math, and of course, this is all debatable, but the basic math is $1 spent in the economy usually generates $3 of economic activity. And I don't know whether this is actually like a factual number or whether this is the politicians and the economists come to sort of a convenient sort of agreement on this number. Because if this is the case, then what this means is that if we get into a situation where the consumer just doesn't have that dollar, they're broke. It does happen. I mean, people end up running out of money. They just spend too much money. They buy fucking dog money, and then dog money collapses and no more dog money. That money's gone. So at some point, the consumer can just simply run out of money, and then the whole damn system stops. And if the whole system stops, then, we're all in deep horseshit. So, Mr. Voodoo Economics, Mr. Reagan, came along in 1980 when we really didn't need to do this. And that's the worst part about all this, is he came along and he said, well, if we have a recession, then it's the government's job to step in and be this person. And actually, that's not Mr. Reagan's thinking. This is like this is classic economics, like Keynesian economics, right? The government needs to step in and be the consumer every once in a while. They have to. What Mr. Reagan said was, it's okay if the government, and he's a politician. I think he was told by the banksters who are really running everything. It's okay if the government comes in and borrows this money, or in essence goes into debt to fuel this machine, just as long as that dollar is spent into the economy. I don't care who it is. Just as long as that dollar is spent into the economy, and if we have to go into debt to do it, so be it. Somebody's got to spend that dollar to keep the machine moving along. What do you think? Does that make sense? I don't know if the person who asked that question is here, Mr. Pump, but hopefully now you understand what this money multiplier effect is and why it's so important. Let me know on the site, PM me if you want me to go into further detail. We can always attack it again. When the market is smiling at you, M pattern, does the little old lady close her position on alts and move her position in other assets? Example, stable coins. Nope. The whole point of the little old lady is a risk management approach to managing your money. And if you're in the level 1 program and you're asking this question, sadly, there are people in the crypto social sphere that for some reason took concepts of mine that I taught, and they didn't even bother putting their own names on this stuff. They just completely bastardized the concept and twisted it to their own liking. So as a result, a lot of people that come to me and are like, hey, I want to learn little old lady investing, and I have to completely reteach them what the hell this concept is. So ironically enough, you'll understand little old lady approach to investing once you go through the risk management part of the course, which may mean that we have to undo a lot of damage other people have done to you, bastardizing that term. It sucks for you because I'm not going to change the term. I was using the term before this person was probably even born. Well, maybe not that old, but I was definitely using the term describing some of my clients back last century. So I can definitely say that I've used this term to describe some of my clients for a very, very long period of time. But no, I mean, the simple answer to your question is this here to me says you don't understand at all what little old lady concept is all about. From my perspective, I don't know what little old lady means to you. That kind of sucks. Fucking pissed me off. But oh well, that's the way this world goes. Um, so simply put, little old lady is really more about how often would a client of mine want to be bugged, called, harassed by her broker if she had a bunch of money working with me? And the answer is they don't ever want to be harassed. They don't ever want to be bugged. They've got far more important, far more significant things going on in their lives. They just want to know that, hey, I was interested in this asset class in this group. I've gone and made an investment, and is my money working appropriately? So, very simply put, no. This is all about risk management, and really, the little old lady never takes more than 5% of her stake and puts it into any one particular name. And ironically enough, if you take whatever money you're working with, $100,000, $200,000, $1 million, doesn't really matter. You put 5% of that money into any one particular name, which means that once you've sort of invested all of your money, you're in 20 different investments. It's actually very difficult to lose money if you take the little old lady approach. But also, too, remember, little old lady, by definition, right on the all marketing material, it says that they have a 3 to 5 year time horizon on their investment idea. So, I hope that helps answer that question. The very simple answer here is little old ladies do not time the market. So that means M's and W's don't mean anything to them. And you're probably going to have to learn that over the course of the course. And if it means that we have to unprogram what others have taught you, my apologies. Might be a bit challenging for you. All right, number 17. Can you expand on the Coinbase IPO and how that story played out? Was manipulated? Well, I mean, you have to understand the whole damn capitalist market, everything, this is all manipulated. Everything about this marketplace is manipulated. It just is. Get used to it. Whether it be the fiat currency system, whether it be interest rates, whether it be cryptocurrencies, whether it be stocks, whether it be bonds, the entire marketplace, this whole planet is manipulated. So what I would simply say here is actually this Coinbase IPO went on very normal. It was actually extremely quote unquote business as usual. Really nothing out of the ordinary whatsoever. Unfortunately, people who do not, I mean, how do we say this? Let's take a guinea pig. Who's a good guinea pig? Somebody want to volunteer as a guinea pig? Who's gonna be my guinea pig? Was that before or after the bankers tried to take him out? Oh, you mean with Reagan? Oh goodness, yeah. And I heard that somebody the other day said that the guy who actually took a whack at him, turns out that they were family friends of the Bushes. I mean, how perfect. Oh, absolutely perfect. All right, who wants to be my guinea pig? Somebody's going to be my guinea pig. Hey, look at this. Aisha. When we look at some asset market cap dominance, don't you think that it's weird that they haven't moved up much if we were in a bull run? Oh, that's interesting. I'm not quite sure what that is. I might take a look at that once I'm done my rant here. Hafed, does anyone have good experience with earning yield on BTC, ETH, other on good trusted platforms? Looking for recommendations on where to start with. I don't know. We used to have Farmer Dave. Is Farmer Dave still around the site? He'd probably be able to help you with that, Will. Also, I know Seb. I think he's pretty active within the DeFi space. I don't know whether that's what you're talking about. Of course, there's Fjord. You could always pick his brain. He's pretty smart at this stuff now. But anyway, do we have a guinea pig? Rachel, do you want to be a guinea pig? Anyway, my question for guinea pig, if somebody wants to answer this, is, I would say, are you professional grade auto racer? Will, are you our guinea pig? I don't know. If you get into a Formula One race, or I don't know, Indianapolis 500. You guys ever seen the way there was a movie? It was called Days of Thunder. Does anybody remember that movie with what's his face, Mr. Scientologist? Anyway, the point being that I don't know whether you've ever we had a TRI meetup here a couple years ago, and we had a go-kart race. And I was fucking in last place, man. I sucked horse cocks. I couldn't believe how bad I was. But the point is, of course, I mean, I don't drive. I used to be a joke. I used to actually let Joanne drive everywhere. I don't want to drive. Who cares? Anyway, so the point is I'm terrible at racing. But you get in there, and what happens? I mean, you guys have been in. Man, I remember when we were all lined up in our little racers and stuff, and some of the guys were even insulting each other, like while we were sitting in the little pen getting ready to race. I mean, they get really nasty, really competitive. So where am I going with all this? You have to understand that capitalism and everything about the market is exactly the same as that go-kart race or the Indianapolis 500 or the F1 auto race. It's exactly the same. It's just the difference here is the dollars. And if somebody's going to bump you off the road, like in the auto race, oh, we're just going to, it's just, hey, it's a friendly tap. Hey, aren't you competitive? Yeah, you're competitive, right? And maybe you end up crashing your car, front tire comes off. And have you ever seen what happens to a car when the front tire comes off and then the car hits that wheel? It can literally spin out of control and go into like loops. And you often see, the cars do that, and it lands on the roof, and the driver's instantly killed. So that friendly bump, hey, aren't you competitive? It actually now it's turned into vehicular murder, a homicide, we'll say. So there's no difference. I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, you could argue professional sports, the entire professional sports industry. I mean, look at the way the professional sports players with American style football. And how, 30, 40 years later, half of these men are like fucking vegetables. They can't even put a sentence together. Oh, wait, go ahead. What are you? You can't take the heat? Come on. What are you, a pussy? So you have to understand capitalism is exactly the same way. It's about money. So the Coinbase IPO, first off, the process to the actual event of the IPO itself was the end of a very, very long journey. In fact, I think the Coinbase IPO guy himself, literally a day or two after the thing came to market, was selling in the tens of millions of dollars worth of stock. And we were even joking. We're like, what the fuck? You bring your company to public and then all of a sudden you're selling stock, what you don't want it? the stock anymore? Why did you bring it to public to begin with? No, they were cashing out. They were getting paid for all that work. So quite often IPOs are nothing more than the end of a very long event. Of course, kind of like our auto racing. If I stepped in there, like Marat, I don't know whether you guys know Marat on the site. Turns out that the guy, of course, is like built like a tank. He's a German police officer. What a surprise! And it turns out he did pretty well in auto racing. In fact, go-kart racing. In fact, he did so well, he got cocky and he got thrown off the track, which is funny. So he got banned for being too good. Wasn't that funny? But he was really good. But I mean, geez, the guy's a German police officer. Do you think maybe he has a little bit of training on a high-speed pursuit and that kind of shit? Now, of course, like I said, he's built like a tank, so he's in incredible shape. So is it a good idea for me to walk into an arena and just sort of fuck around, go, yeah, I got to kill Marat? No, Marat's going to fucking run circles around me. Why would it be any difference in the stock market? It's exactly the same. And cryptocurrency trading, it's exactly the same. Coinbase IPO, exactly the same. No different. And yes, the whole fucking thing is highly, highly manipulated. Everything. I would say this was so manipulated that I think that Musk was told to do what he did, and he fulfilled an obligation that somebody was holding over his head over all that. That is what I honestly think happened with all that stupid Dogecoin nonsense. I really do. I really, really do. That's how manipulated I think this whole thing was. And if anything, the fact that the attention was completely distracted and pointed elsewhere was part of the manipulation. Nobody's even talking about how basically this Coinbase IPO was staggering in size. I mean, staggering. Nobody's talked about it at all. The thing has basically gone straight down since the day it was listed. Will James says, look at O'Leary video. He talks about getting cuffed by his compliance officers. All right. It'd be interesting to see what he was referring to. But yeah, in the classic stock market, you can't get away with half of what they get away with in crypto. That's for sure. I mean, this whole thing with Dogecoin, you could never do that in the stock market. And Musk used to try to do that with the Tesla stock, and man, he used to get into so much trouble. So the fact that he's doing this with Doge right now, he's kind of flirting. I think if anything else, too, he's trying to figure out what he can get away with as well there. Yeah, Wittenberg. So, and that Kevin O'Leary guy, man, do not trust that guy, please, everyone. Before that Shark Tank thing, he was notorious for running failed businesses. How the fuck he got on that Shark Tank thing, I have no idea. As sort of like Mr. I'm a winner. I think he's a jerk, and me, PMA. I'm not that type of person. So those kind of people really, they irk me. But he has a long history of failed businesses. I don't know why people think that he's so wonderful. It's baffling. Anyway, number 18. I understand the lava lamp analogy, but does it take into account the movement of capital from country to country? Yeah. I mean, China pouring capital into Africa after sucking a lot of capital from the West. I might argue that, probably about 200-300 years, there was a massive flow of capital out of China. into the West. So, in a weird sort of way, what we've actually seen over the past 20, 30, 40 years, in a weird sort of way, it's actually kind of like the lava lamp kind of balancing itself out. Because for a very, very long period of time, about a half a dozen of the European nations, they just repeatedly raped China over and over and over. I mean, China is staggeringly more wealthy than us in the West. Staggeringly so. So staggering that they actually had a whole city, a whole fucking city built around just servicing one guy. And you aren't even allowed into that city unless that one guy gives you special permission. I mean, holy fuck. We don't have anything like that in the West. I mean, the like China they're so wealthy, they're so staggeringly further along than the rest of the world that they got complacent and they just sort of said the rest of the world is a complete waste of time. We've got it made in the shade. Let's just forget about them and don't even think about what the hell they're doing. The only problem with that is that bit them in the ass. And then for like literally about 300 years, it was just constant wealth, just being funneled out of China through like things like the Opium Wars and shit. I suppose you could argue the zenith of that was the rape of Nanking. And it almost feels like that was almost like a historical tipping point. And since then, the lava lamp is actually flowing the other direction. And it may flow the other direction for a very, very long time. There is conjecture that we've hit sort of a short-term sort of pivot here. Guys like Dennis Gartman are kind of like, capital flowed into China for a while now. Now they're pretty heavy. They're pretty, man, they've made out like bandits here over the past 20, 30 years. So their balance sheets are staggeringly heavy. So if anything, the lava lamp really flowed hard out of the United States over the past 20 years. I mean, if you look at things like trade deficit, capital continues to flow out of the United States. And some might argue that that's a function of the world hegemony. And once that trade balance is exhausted, then that's it for the United States. You're done. We'll go find a new hegemony currency, probably going to be some sort of Chinese something. And we'll start the game all over. But I don't think so. In a weird sort of way, I think the Chinese want to keep the banks the fuck out. I really do. I don't think that the Chinese do not want the fucking, Western European banksters to come in and steal their country. And especially they have this history of all the raping of China over the past couple hundred years. So they're like every single time the West even thinks about coming in and balking, they're like, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. Get the fuck out. And I don't blame them, man. I mean, I honestly don't blame them. But, to actually see this kind of like global capital flow, it would be a really interesting, speaking of Murad earlier, he did in our Vancouver meetup, he did one presentation at Decentral one night of the flow of coins and the way coins flowed based on their structure, POW, POS, distribution, and different coins made really cool different patterns in their behavior. It would be really interesting to see what a global capital sort of lava lamp flow actually looks like right now. I would say it's like it's a globe, so it's swimming around. It's constantly flowing. I think over the past 20 years, we've had a massive flood into China, But now things like China pouring capital into Africa, I actually think you're actually going to see a long period of time where capital is going to be flowing out of China. And I mean, I've shown you. I mean, I don't have the camera hooked up here, but I'll just look out my window. I mean, this is ridiculous. I can absolutely guarantee you, like, there's about 20 or 30 buildings that are going up in Vancouver here, and they're not being built by white people. They're not being built for white people. There aren't enough Canadians to buy all of these damn units. So somebody's building them, and my hunch is it is this China capital. Like tens of billions, hundreds of billions flowed into their coffers over the past 10, 20 years. And I think a lot of it is flowing out now back into these kind of investments. And I think this is this whole Belt and Road, which, if anything, I like this because I know 2025, China, that's their official date for Belt and Road, which means that they're going to pull the carpet out from underneath the market probably right around the summer of 2025. Just get ready for it. It's going to happen. Which means I do not want to buy this local market here because what is that? That's 3 or 4 years from now. The Chinese are going to pull the carpet out from underneath it. And it makes sense too, because in 3 or 4 years, all of these buildings will be finished. They will be sold out into the marketplace. So the developers, they're not going to have it on their hands. The banks, they're not going to have it on their hands. It's going to be in the marketplace. And they're the ones that are going to get screwed, as always. And then also, too, I really like the idea of buying assets where nobody is interested. Nobody wants them. Well, if Belt and Road is the big story right now, what has been the United States of America and China's relationship of late? Well, not so good. Can Mr. Biden undo 4 years of Trump just like that? I don't think so. I think there's probably still a lot of lingering effects from Mr. Trump. And hell, we might have Mr. Trump back here in 3 or 4 years. There's no reason why he can't get reelected. In my eyes, I think that could very easily happen. And I'm hearing that there's a lot of anti-Asian sentiment building within the United States right now, too, which is very interesting. So it's almost like the drum beats of sort of hatred are they're simmering out there. And if anything, if we're thinking about justification for wars going forward to keep, military industrial societies going, well, let's go and find an enemy. China looks like a good enemy. All right, we got ourselves a narrative for war. Where I'm going with all this is that I love the idea of not buying Canada. I mean, fuck, this place is ridiculous because I know that as soon as that Belt and Road Initiative is sort of hit its zenith, the Chinese are going to walk away from the market. So this has got disaster written all over it. But also, too, I like the idea of buying US dollar denominated assets in places that people really aren't interested in right now. And frankly speaking, I've said this before, but I'll say it again. I'm shocked at the actual property that I can get in a place like Hawaii relative to the amount of money that same dollar will buy here in Vancouver. I mean, it's literally like a 10-to-1 ratio. And no offense, Canada is not nearly as great a place to live as Hawaii. I'm not quite sure why it's such a huge discrepancy, but from an investing perspective, it would be stupid of me to come in and buy Canada. It would be like buying Bitcoin at 20,000 back at the end of 17, beginning 18. It would be like buying Doge up here at 60, 70 cents. It's exactly the same thing. So why would I do that? That's just idiocy. So, well, see, that's the problem, Ming, is that we do and we don't. The irony of this crazy planet is that, I think I was saying it earlier, 80, maybe even up to 90% of the population of this country, Canada, the second largest country in the world, by the way. 80 to 90% of the population lives within about 50 to 100 miles of the US border. That's crazy. So, what that really means is that our country is about a 40, 50 mile strip. Oh, yeah, it's the second biggest country in the world, but not really. Our country is really about a 50 to 100 mile strip, just slightly above the US border. That's basically our country. And like we go on about global warming. I've said this repeatedly, folks. It's terribly politically incorrect. I don't know why we don't fucking wake up here, Canada. Global warming is absolutely the best possible thing that can happen to our country. We're the second largest country in the world, and we can't use most of our country because it's too fucking cold. What the hell? Why don't we endorse a little bit of global warming? Then maybe we could actually live in part of our country. Screwy Canadians, man. And that's so funny about Canadians. Canadians are so they're dumb. I mean, no offense, but they're just stupid. I mean, do you all know, Megan, did you know this? And I'm sure you do. They're digging up dinosaur bones in northern Alberta. Do you know where northern Alberta is? I mean, it's up by the goddamn North Pole. I mean, this is what kills you about these stupid humans and like this global warming nonsense. Where the fuck is northern Alberta? Northern Alberta? Are we going to show? It's so fucking far north, it won't even show. Oh, this is crazy DuckDuckGo, man. I try. Always going to. Okay, are we in here? Okay, here we go. Look where. Let's see where northern Alberta comes up on this thing. That's not northern Alberta, by the way. That's actually in the tropics. This is northern Alberta up here. Greater Slave Lake this is Northwest Territories. But this is where we're talking. This is where like the oil sands and all that shit is. It's up here. Look how big this fucking country is. And like 80 to 90% of our population lives right along this funny little line right along here. Right? So all of this, I mean, look how big this is. And it's all, there's nobody there. Because it's all buried in snow like 70, 80% of the year. So, northern Alberta, with those oil sands, tar sands, all that kind of shit. Actually, they don't show you. But anyway, the provincial border is up here. So actually, Fort McMurray is where northern Alberta is. But anyway, that's like way up here. That's where all that oil sands are. And look, like Canada, it actually goes all the way up here. There's the North Pole way up there. So that's where we are. But the point that I would just make here is they found dinosaur bones up here. Dinosaurs up here. Can dinosaurs survive in snowy conditions? So clearly this globe has had dramatic weather changes over the years. And this is what I find so funny about global warming people and all that kind of stuff. Like, I'm a big fan of what's called the Younger Dryas. And it says that a big comet or asteroid slammed into North America here about 14,000 years ago. This all was covered in one big ice sheet. And the comet slammed into North America here. It melted the ice sheet, caused a lot of the geologic formations that we see, things like the Grand Canyon and stuff like that, were all caused by this. And of course, you can see, look at the coastline of North America here. You can literally see where the old coastline was. But the whole fucking level of the ocean has been raised by about, like, I think it's about 500 feet or like just about 1,000 feet. It's really cool when you go over to Japan. You can see all of this was above water at one point. And down here in southern Japan, There's even like pyramids and shit that are just slightly under the water. I mean, it's so fucking cool. So, what, 1500 years ago, there was a volcano that went off right here. And it actually caused the entire planet to go like dark for like 5 years. Like crops, populations collapse, Arthur and all of those, Dark Ages references and stuff like that, King Arthur and stuff. That was all then. That was only 1500 years ago. So, holy shit. Anything could happen on this planet. And like getting sucked into things like global warming and all that, climate change, and the way Greta wants us to shit our pants. I mean, that's kind of stupid. Anyway, so Younger Dryas basically changed everything about 14,000 years ago. And I might argue that we're still actually recovering from that event. And we don't even know what the end game of all of this is. So, kind of funny that you can actually find dinosaurs and dinosaur bones way up here. I mean, there's the North Pole there. So obviously, at some point up here, this was tropical. If this is tropical here, what would that mean that most of the United States of America would be? This was probably like bone dry desert down here if this was tropical up here. So it just goes to show, holy change in climate, Batman. All right, what the hell were we talking about? Yeah, we were talking about China and Africa. Are you guys having fun today? I'm sorry, Kevin. I totally kind of screwed out your day here, but are we having fun? Is this a fun conversation? Are we enjoying ourselves here today? Kevin's fine. Andre seems to be having fun. We've gone from China to dinosaur bones, and now we're going back. Actually, I think, what was it? Kiran said that you can get, I think COVID is cured by finely ground bones of one animal. I remember you saying a joke about that this morning. Anyway. Finely ground unicorn bones. That might cure COVID. Yeah, it's possible. Okay, 19. Could you please go through bonds and interest rates in relation to what they actually mean for the global socioeconomic situation? Oh boy, wow, that's a mess. You made several references on your streams to the fact that interest rates have been trending downward for quite a while, inviting us to answer the questions why and what may happen next. A paranoid part of me wants to say that it's happening to lure people into taking more loans. Well, yeah, the sad part about it is don't be paranoid. This is actually the way that the cycle works. Like, if you think about who can finish this sentence? The cure for high prices is where did I have that? Not there. I guess it's over here. Yeah, here we are. Let's do another drawing. Well, yep. I mean, you got it. Gander got it. How about over there on YouTube? Not in my experience yet. All right. Flat Earth. Rockers, loving it. Hey, Rocker. A rocker. Hey, Rocker, I thought you would be on board for our Hawaiian adventure. That's surprising. I don't think I've heard from you. The Rocker. Actually, there's some surprise. Some people that I would have sworn would have been totally on board. And they were like, nah, it's not my style, Brian. Sorry. But, I mean, it just goes to show it's a free market. It's a free world. Okay, so what I wanted to show you guys, like I said, the cure for high prices is high prices. So, sadly, of course, like the interest rate cycle is nothing more than a big circle Wow, what a big surprise. So let me ask you this, and I don't know, is the person who asked this question, are you here? By the same time, this doesn't make a lot of sense to me because if interest rates skyrocket, we will end up in a situation where a lot of people cannot pay back their loans. Or could it really be that bad that some behind the curtain would want a generation of slaves who would do anything for food? What am I missing? There's a couple moving parts to this. So the first is if even how do we say this? Okay, supply and demand, right? So if demand for money is rising, well, who could tell me why would we have a rising demand for money? That's probably the better way to say this. So let's say that this is the demand for money. It keeps rising and rising and rising over time. Want more money, want more money. Demand for money. Why would that happen? What is the one thing that I teach in the program that in a very circular way is going to naturally cause a rise in demand for money? Maybe that's a better way to say it. Well, if there was a low supply of money, there might be. Hey, Ming got it. Demographics. Right? If you have a whole bunch of people that were born, like kind of like you millennials, right? And you went through your childhood, are you going to be demanding a lot of money? No. You want G.I. Joe with a Kung Fu grip. But that doesn't cost that much money. That's like $10, right? $20. If you're that same 20-year-old or you're that same millennial and now you're 25 years old and you want a brand new little Tesla car, like Josh, is that $20 now? No way, man. That's a lot more money. So I threw at $20,000, $30,000, whatever, for one of those cars. And then, of course, you get into like Brian's age. And now what's Brian shopping for? Is Brian shopping for a $20,000 car now? No, Brian wants to go develop a $1 million property in Hawaii. Like, what the fuck? Yeah, we're shopping for islands. So interestingly, as you go through your life, it's just a function of where are you in your earnings years? What kind of money are you making? And if you can think of like a society, because your question here was all about societal sort of pushes, global socioeconomic situation. So if you can think about this from just a simple sort of demographic that's sociological, right? We got the millennials. They're going to be demanding more money as they get older and older and older and want more and more fun toys. Especially in this world where they want you to finance everything, right? Go and buy the car, but get the car loan, right? Go out for fancy dinners, but put it on your credit card. Buy a house, but carry a massive mortgage. So what ends up happening is the demand for money goes up. So that means that the cost of the actual money must also go up, right? And that is like yield. So this would be like your percentage yield. So remember we said there's more, our society is built on this debt sort of idea. You can't go and buy the Tesla with cash, you're going to have to buy it on credit. So really what that means is the millennials, they're borrowing money. Does that make sense? Right? You're not, I mean, Brian's a weirdo. Brian is neither a debtor nor lender B. I want to pay everything in cash. I do not want to play this debt game. But that's Brian. Brian's a weirdo. Brian does everything exactly opposite the way Joey Diamond wants you to live your life, right? Does everybody know that? This is like Joey Diamond. We're talking to Joey Diamond. We're talking to 100 million millennials. That's who Joey Diamond influences. Brian's a weirdo. Not many people are going to follow Brian's thinking, but Brian keeps himself out of trouble. He doesn't get margin called. He never gets, sort of liquidated. That doesn't happen to Brian. But most people, they want stuff. And keep in mind, Brian doesn't drive a Porsche. Brian drives a Toyota. Why? Because Brian wants to make sure that Toyota is bought and paid for. Nobody's ever going to take the Toyota away from me. There's never going to be a guy who says, hey, you never made your monthly payment. We're taking the Porsche away. Just not going to happen. So if I want to drive the Porsche and I'm a millennial, then I have to get into this. I'm demanding. And then really this money, it actually is in the form of a loan. And you might even argue that as our, you remember the forecast that we gave you, that as we go through this generational build out, right, and this is exactly the same. This is the Great Depression. So exactly the same. So these were all the people that fought and died in the Second World War. They called it the Greatest Generation. Now they call it the Silent Generation. When they came back from World War II, it's exactly the same situation. And they just saw higher and higher and higher prices constantly for the next 10, 20 years. It's identical. Exactly the same. So when, and think George Bush Sr. George Bush Sr. was this guy. George Bush Sr., he fought in Second World War, even got shot down. He was a World War II fighter pilot down in the South Pacific. And he even got shot down. I'm sure there was one point when the plane was going down, he was probably like, okay, well, this is it. I gave my life to my country. And then I'm sure when people like Ross Perot and Bill Clinton getting blowjobs in the White House, he said, I can't believe it. I literally gave my life for this country. And this is the thanks that I get. And Dana Carvey publicly humiliates him on Saturday Night Live. Geez, you've heard of that place. Are they slightly corrupt? I wonder. Dana Carvey publicly humiliates him on Saturday Night Live. Do you think George Bush Sr. kind of went, I gave my life for this fucking country. And when I came back from the war, man, the 1% that did this to me, I'm going to do exactly the same thing that they did to me. I'm going to do it to the next generation. And, I would have been like, no, Kindler, General Nation, 1,000 Points of Light, we're all going to work together. And along comes Dana Carvey, who publicly humiliates him. Along comes Ross Perot, who says, there's no way you're going to get reelected president. I'm going to make sure myself that doesn't happen. Along comes Bill Clinton. Frankly speaking, I think Bill Clinton is one of the most corrupt people in U.S. history. And the Clinton family and all that, we all know Pizzagate, right? So I would imagine George Bush Sr. said, fine, you know what? I'm going to put my kid in there. We're going to just totally destroy this country, and we're going to destroy it from the inside out. That wouldn't surprise me. I've told you that a lot of times before, guys, so don't be surprised. So the banksters took over through the Great Depression. They reset the currency. They loaded up on all the assets. And then to get and keep in mind, interest rate bottom of its cycle. So to get the greatest generation who fought the Second World War, to get them all loaded up, they just crank asset prices up. So they don't have any choice. They want to buy a house, they want to raise kids, and the prices just keep going up and up and up and up and up and up and up to the point where they have to get a mortgage. They can't be like Brian. Brian, I want to be like you, neither a borrower nor a lender be, but they just keep cranking the prices up, up, up. I can't afford it. And now I have to go and get a mortgage. That's the only way I can get a house. So you kind of also said that in this statement too, that to a certain degree, I think you're absolutely right. Where was that? Where you said paranoid partners is how loans take out more loans, right? And then that means that they're locked into slavery when really this thing, because they can't pay back the loan because it's so big. And so they have to go and get a mortgage and they're locked into another generation of slavery. Yeah, I actually think you're right. So the key here is don't get sucked into this game. Don't neither a borrower nor a lender be. Don't listen to Klaus. For God's sake, don't put your future in somebody else's hands. Don't do it. Keep your life in your hands. And the cool part about it is if you keep your life in your hands and you learn the principles, here's a great example. There's Luna, perfect example. Except I'm talking about the cryptocurrency, not some crazy stuff, but here, perfect example. I mean, the irony of it all is that you cannot tell me there aren't fortunes to be made in this market. This thing went from 50 cents to $20. This is the kind of stuff Klaus does not want you to take advantage of. He does not want you to be a part of this. He doesn't want you to own anything. He wants you to be mindless, and he wants you to think that it's impossible to get ahead. It's impossible to fight this. Well, what I'm telling you is that actually in this kind of environment, this should be happening literally on a yearly basis for people who are educated, for people that know how to play the game. But it means you have to take personal responsibility. It means you can't just pass off the decision making to somebody else. You do that, you're going to end up getting yourself into trouble. What ends up happening is these stupid people, they end up chasing up here after the story and after hearing about people who've gotten stinking rich and go, oh, well, I guess I could do that too. I'll just try, and boom, they get fucked. But what I find really interesting about this is, of course, now all you hear about is sad stories. But I might argue that the patient and the discipline are actually looking at this and saying, well, the public is all upset and the message in the public is negative right now. I mean, does this not sound like selling when they're yelling? And then what should we be doing if we hear them crying? I don't know whether you can do that or not. That's up to you. But I tell you, I'm in here buying. This is a no-brainer for a guy like me. And if, and I'm not saying you can, but if you can set yourself up to do this, I mean, people, I haven't even been working with you that long. I mean, I worked in the financial services industry for 20, 25 years. I come in here in crypto and I'm doing stupid idiot trading and banging out millions. I mean, this is ridiculous. I mean, it's so volatile. Fuck. If anybody, and I'm starting with no money. If you had $5,000-$10,000 or something and you went through $1,000 at this thing at 50, 60 cents, well, that $1,000, bang, just turned into $10,000. And oh boy, well, now it's $20,000. Oh, now it's $30,000. This is just one trade. They're everywhere. It's just you have to be patient and disciplined and don't buy into the nonsense of the banks. I'll tell you right now, whoever wrote this question, to me, this is a person, if you don't understand how money works and you don't understand the process, you've nailed our society. Most of these people will go through their lives in our society being a subject to this. And the worst part about it is, for us that do know, these people will drive us crazy because they don't even want to know. They don't want to have to take that responsibility. They don't even want to know how bad is. Because I mean, for lack of a better term, it's pretty fucking depressing, right? I mean, to actually really know how nasty this world is, it's not really the greatest message. But there's these crazy guys like Brian. We don't have to live this life. You don't have to. You don't have to. That's right, Joe. There's hope. There is hope. Although you're down there in Southeast US, I'm sure you're kind of pissed off right now. The Southeast US, the South was going to rise again. Well, I was about to head your direction, and then all of a sudden I took a massive tangent here. Well, that was close, man. That was close. And what the hell? I've said this before. You know, Liam's got he's got 3 Bitcoins himself. I set up the wallet years ago for him, and I've never touched them. They're just his. And if we get Chico Crypto's forecast, then 1 Bitcoin should buy 1 house. So I'll buy a house down there in South Carolina with 1 Bitcoin. All right, is that a deal? If we get who was it? It's Willie Woo's forecast, right? And I that, to be honestly, that's the same as Hawaii. I mean, this Hawaii situation, I think, is special because we happen to have a local expert in TRI fold. So as a result, we're kind of privy to a piece of land that we probably would have never seen had we just been like walking down the street going, hey, I want to buy that. So it's a little bit lucky. Yeah, well, I was also thinking this too, Joseph. Do you see the connection between the term carpetbagger and what is happening to the market here? I actually think that carpetbagger was less a reference to the Civil War and more a reference to that whole money situation. Because I would argue that the Second World War was the cover for the last generation's fiat reset, and the U.S. Civil War was the previous generation's cover for the fiat reset. And exactly the same thing that you're seeing happening now. People with a lot of money are pouring in and buying up all this quote unquote cheap real estate and driving up prices, exactly the same as that carpetbagger reference. It's just that carpetbagger, I think it was, like I said, it's an easy way to explain what was going on. Oh, it's just those goddamn Yankees coming in and stealing up our land after the war. Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. Yeah. The issue here is, do you want to, like I said, we've got a special situation here, and that's why I'm super excited about this Hawaiian project. It's a really special situation. You don't get like oceanfront property every day. That's just nuts. So, and we don't even know if we're going to get the property or not. I mean, I'm just half of my talk here is hopeful dreams, but it's just kind of funny. I know, Joe, I'm gonna buy a whack of land somewhere. It's just a question of where. And I know you were lobbying for down southeast. And again, I like the idea of buying U.S. denominated raw real estate right now, which is so utterly and completely contrarian to the rest of the world. All of you people want to come and buy Canadian real estate right now. You're paying like a 10-fold premium, and I haven't got a fucking clue why. But oh well. Okay, so what do you think? I gave that question quite a bit of time. Again, I don't know who asked this question, but I hope my comments here spoke a little bit to that. We can always talk more about this. Obviously, these are huge macroeconomic drivers and trends, so it's not like this conversation is going away tomorrow. So. All right, number 20. You often mention chaos theory analysis. What does this entail and where can we read up on it? Unfortunately, I mean, like as the history goes, and we had one Kiran, our level 2 instructor, actually got the NFT going, although I have no fucking clue where the hell it is now. But it was just, I guess, about a year, maybe about 18 months ago, that I stumbled upon, um, and I guess probably the best place just to show you where sort of the starting point for me would be is, how do you do this? Maybe I go here. What happens if I go home? Maybe this will do it. Wait, and then we go. I don't even see it. I would spell his name wrong now. Feig. Fagan. There he is. Fagan Mom. Yeah. So this guy's actually. I mean, there's a number of them. What I'd probably do is my first suggestion would be for you to go to YouTube and watch the videos. All I did was a YouTube search query Fagamom, and it'll spit up about 4 or 5 different videos that I think, just right off the top, they all look like they're what I would recommend you look at. This guy's pretty smart when it comes to describing math. This guy right here. In nice, simple terms, which to understand this, the simpler the better. Keep it as simple as possible, and then you can wrap your head around it. So that would be the first thing that I would suggest you do is you go watch these YouTube videos. And I think we shared them in the library too. But I've given you that link. So that's a good starting point. Question is, I've never actually seen anybody actually talk about Feigenbaum and trading hand in hand. In a weird sort of way, I've been sort of piecing all this together as I've been going along here. And then over the past year or so, other site members have been adding. So like the most important thing is the constant itself. Oh, is this bifurcation? So this is where I sort of started my journey, was the 4.669 idea, and just trying to wrap your head around that. Then it turns out that we can also then go fibs and foggy, and you get really weird numbers, 2.618, and then 4.669, 8.77, and there is another one that Julian's told us recently, 16.88, but I haven't seen anybody actually like math this out yet for me. These numbers here, actually, if you do some math with the fib sequence, you come out with these numbers, not at least these ones in particular. And I've noticed that this 2.618 is very, very connected. All 3 of these are highly, highly connected. So what ends up often happening is the market bounces back and forth between these levels. And unfortunately, that's about as far as I've taken this right now. So, like I said, I've never really seen anybody actually teach this. I'm not even exactly sure how one teaches this. there's also two, these happen to be the numbers, but what levels are you actually using to try and create these? What is it that's actually happening in the marketplace to justify this type of thinking? And I think it has a lot to do with the horizontal count that we learn about in point and figure charting. Very similar. So there is some sort of connection between horizontal counts in point and figure charting and I'll say what levels to use, something along those lines. So this is sort of how I came across the idea of using support and resistance and market structure. Was I made the connection of this horizontal count that people did for a very long time using point and figure charting and Feigenbaum. So this, of course, leads to things like market structure implies energy, which when expressed must hit constants. So, if you go through the videos and you understand this bifurcation concept, then what you'll understand is this is almost like it's like an inevitable reaction of an event. And like I said, if you can take the concept of horizontal count to understand the idea of energy being sort of accumulated within a range, and then using market structure itself to understand that energy compression, and then when the idea is sort of like, all right, it's time for us to go live, that kind of thing, when that energy is expressed, it must actually follow along this sort of universal constant path. And then what's interesting, like I said, is, and how would I say this? I'd say probably the trend sentiment dictates directional what I'm trying to say here is what I've seen is and there was a really good example of this recently on a stock that I did. Remember that IMIN? I don't have those documents. In essence, I'm building out the entire Feigenbaum tutorial lecture here through the Daily Brief here today. So anyway, yeah, there's a day there. Oh, hey, what's this? Yeah, Raf and Bobo were the ones who helped me with the hello everyone. Hello yourself. All right, well, good. So cool that you shared that. Thank you for finding that. That was back at that one says 10th of March. So it was about a year or so ago. It's interesting how they even had a PowerPoint. Yeah. So well, why don't we put down previously recorded DB session on topic. Man, you're getting a full meal deal here, dude. So, or dudette, whoever asked us. So, anything, probably what's better for you is to go and watch this introduction, like the math and all this sort of, smarts about all this. And then go watch our video. Yeah. With these kind of thinking. Pressure, maybe? Something like that. Okay, so hopefully that gives you some food for thought there. All right, what do you think? Did I do my name justice? Do you feel as though I didn't let you guys down, you level oneers? Is there any of you people that actually asked any of these questions? Were any of you actually here today? That'd be terrible. They all were like, no. All right, thank you, Megan. Megan, I think Megan's a fan though, so she's kind of biased. Okay, so it's about 10:45. So my apologies, we didn't get around to Kevin today. Joseph says he also has the document that's associated with this, so probably a good idea. Why don't we throw that document in there too? You gonna post that in the lounge there, Chief? That'd be cool if you could do that. Thanks, man. Or you can do it in the Hangout here. It's up to you. So I think we'll probably leave it at that. It's kind of an odd session. I'll do the little public rant. Talk a little bit about how I think risk assets look like they're a little bit happier. And we've got class. Actually, I've got class here in about 2.5 hours. So I'm going to be pretty busy through the day. And then Zach, of course, is going to be meeting with me. And we'll talk a little bit about how the Hawaiian experiment is going. Looks like inertia. We've kind of topped out here with the people that are interested, which is fine. Oh boy, here come a bunch more messages. Maybe not. I think, just for your reference, I wanted to try and raise 2 million. And so far, I've had about, what's the number? Where the hell is the number? Up here. Here's what the prospectus is going to look like generally. I mean, Zach and I will do a bit of polishing. Cool. We got somebody on the site actually did up some artwork for us. That was fucking awesome. Totally awesome, Sanders. A little letter from Brian describing what the heck it is I'm doing. What we're actually going to try and do. Very clearly articulated. How much we're going to try and raise. What is it we're going to get for the money that we spend? What are the different phases? We're going to do it in 3 different phases to make sure everything gets built out. How we want to do the capital raise. What are the revenue projections for the site? I think the site will be revenue positive from the get-go, which means that it should be self-sustaining. It also means that I think we can pay out a small dividend on the actual stones, which is good, but I don't want anybody participating in this thinking they're going to make a killer rate of return. That's not the purpose of this. The purpose is seriously, everybody, the purpose of this is to get that sort of campus for TRI physical form going. And if you want to have your name associated, plaque, cornerstone, exalted in TRI lore, and get paid a nice little dividend on your investment, that's what this is all about. So what's the plan going forward? You can see you got a bunch of steps. I would say right now, just to give you an idea for whatever it's worth, keep in mind, we're just totally rough, not done. I would say right now we're at prospective planning. We'll go through and review the prospectus, lawyers, all the legal shit, do that in like June. Then I like the idea that we've had, and I'm exceedingly pleased. I got to say, I'm pretty proud of you guys. 59 people on the site have said they would like to participate. That number might go up and down. We'll see how it goes. I'm going to take down myself a good 20% of this. And that takes us up now to about 73 high confidence, or about 1.8 million we've raised. So we still need to find another home for about 175. And we've got, I don't know. Some of these people said that they are interested. They might come on, they might not, but in essence, if we can raise 175 out of these people or anybody else that happens to message me, then we'll be done with the raise, and then we can move on to the next step. So probably over the next month, as I said, based on this timeline, that's what I'm going to be. And hey, if I got to find 7 people in a month, that's not so bad. I mean, that's actually not bad at all. But that's basically where I'm going to be. And through this period, I would like to be working with Sebastian, also to See Blue. A couple other people also reached out. We actually have a team of people that are going to be working on the smart contract, which I think is fantastic. And we're just going to basically be doing this entirely on the blockchain. And I would really love to pull the trigger on this deal somewhere around the end of July, beginning of August, which I think too works well for you guys, because I think, trying to raise the money now is not a good idea with the seasonal weakness in the market. And yet you guys actually still stepped up pretty damn good. I mean, we almost got the whole damn deal bought. I was actually pretty surprised to see as many people as are. If we have a nice, happy, uppy crypto market into July, August, I have a funny feeling we're going to have a bunch of other people that are going to be like, hey, man, I just made a pile of money, so I want to get in on it too. So that's just a FYI. Anybody who's watching this later on, that's my goal, is I'd like to close this somewhere July, August. And basically, I mean, I'm serious about this, folks. I mean, I'm going to be working my fucking ass off. I want to basically start groundbreaking as of August and get out there on the property and get working. And I want this thing basically up and running and in production, actually revenue producing for January 1st, 2023. I mean, like a year and a half. I'm going to be working my fucking ass off. But this is my dream, right? I want this TRI campus to become a reality. So, and it's kind of cool. You can actually start to see what the campus is going to look like. All the yurts sort of sprinkled around the property. Keep in mind, this is thick jungle. So each one's going to have like its own little sort of unique theme. And I want like the different yurts to be of the different sort of continents of the earth. So, whatever continent you happen to be from, you can sort of put your personal local stamp on the yurt. I really want that. I want like a media center. I know like Oscar, for example, he wants to come and record music out here. So I know Kevin, for example, he's big on music recording. I want like a yoga studio. I want, big glass windows, and we're like communing with nature and looking out over the ocean. Keep in mind, man, this is unobstructed view of the Pacific Ocean going out here, and this land here will never be developed. Right? That's a state park right there. And it's fucking awesome. So anyway, this is the dream. This is the plan. And I'm going to keep talking to you guys about this. I'm sorry if it bugs you. I'm not shilling you, because I really, like I said, I'm actually really pleased. Basically, we're only seven people away from hitting the objective. So there doesn't even need to be a shill here anymore. But this is, I want you guys, I want the next TRI meetup to be on the campus, and we're all hanging out on the beach, hanging out in our yurts, just having a good old time under the stars, and just being very thankful for the TRI community. That's my goal. So, all right, I think I'll leave the rant at that. Kevin and I will go off and do a fun little public thing. Sorry I cut Kevin off here today if you were anticipating him being on the call. Maybe if he feels like it, maybe we'll do a Kevin piece on Friday for you. And of course, you can all look forward to Julian and his baby powder report tomorrow morning. All right, let's leave it at that. Have yourselves a great rest of your day. PMA for the win. I think, Kevin, you're recording here today, correct? So if you could take us out of here, all the best, and bye for now.